Well, Pat Narduzzi is at it again, going directly against things that Wren Baker's been talking about in the media, basically saying West Virginia is scared to play Pitt.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your Mountaineer host, and this is Mountaineer Virginia. No, this is kidding. This is Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for joining in, you guys, as we jump into another evening session to talk about a little kiss. Obviously, Wren Baker has been adamant in the press about his feelings on extending the Backyard Brawl. And, of course, Mr. Narduzzi is going to be on the other side of that and say that we'll get into it. It's a whole thing. Rich Rod was at Kegler's tonight. I listened to the whole thing. He responded to one of my questions. I was Paul from Huntington. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll give our final thoughts in the third segment about everything and give you guys some updates on what's going to happen this week and things I have planned for the show, and maybe to ask you a few questions on who you would like to see as a guest, because I've got a few options there as well. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first or second listen, depending on if you're here back again today, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Going to be brought to you by Game Time. Of course, guys, right now with Game Time, they're doing it big, as always. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, guys, so let's jump right into this. I don't see any reason to delay any longer. For a quick refresher, obviously we know, and this is for people that are casual listeners, guys, so I know the hardcore fans know this, but this is Backyard Brawl Week. It's Pitt versus West Virginia. It's one of college football's fiercest rivalries. It dates back all the way to the 90s and during the 1800s. It's been renewed since 2022 under a contract for games through this season, right? This is it for a minute. And there's a frustrating 3-year gap here coming up before resuming in 2029. So, and it goes again for 3 more years, 232. So that's 107 meetings total. It should be 117 or more. It's a frustrating thing, but the home teams have won the last 3 games, which is interesting. So why the gap is the question, right? Conference realignment, obviously a big part of that. Scheduling philosophies have kind of gotten in the way. West Virginia plays 9 Big 12 games, which just leaves 3 non-con spots. Wren Baker has been open about preferring 1 Power 4 opponent per year, ideally Pitt, from a fan and economic kind of standpoint, to keep playoff paths open for everyone. Pitt in the ACC has similar kind of beliefs, but they have a little more flexibility than we do. And now you enter into what happened. So obviously West Virginia's home and home with Alabama for 26 and 27. It was mutually canceled on August the 26th. I've got things written down all over my desk here. Because the SEC is now jumping into a 9-game mandate, right? Basically, that requires more non-quality, non-conference foes. And so this opens slots, which marks we thought a Backyard Brawl extension more feasible were this to happen. We thought it was the only barrier to it happening, right? All we have to do was just get both sides to align on the logistics, basically. Home balance, buyouts, the whole thing, right? Well, Wren Baker had said I need to get all my stuff in one place, don't I? June 30th, that in an interview with Golden Blue News, a lot of this is from memory, guys, if you'll just let me remember this. I'm using bullet points. Is an interview with Golden Blue News, and then he said, we talked generally, this is a quote, but this summer I plan to get with Pitt AD and talk more specifics. I would do an extension on the Backyard Brawl for as long as he would do it. I would do a deal where it goes into perpetuity unless you give a notice that you want out 4 years in advance or something like that. He emphasized the rivalry's values for the fans, ticket sales, and tourism in the state. Talked about the economy and helps with that too. So here we are in July, and Baker has reiterated this prioritizing Pitt and Virginia Tech for regional matchups if scheduling allows. And he also said that economic perks like the Morgantown hotels are a big part of that, right? That's what he said in July. So that's June and July. Now, another reveal in August at his annual preseason press conference, which was just a couple weeks before the Alabama news. He said, a few days before those comments, were made by Narduzzi, as a matter of fact, which is today. He said, I reached out to athletic director at Pitt to extend the series. Keep in mind, by the way, Heather Likey has moved on from Pitt, and they've got a new AD in Alan Green now, right? So that's another thing. Heather Likey is obviously got West Virginia ties, and so I'm sure that made that conversation a little easier in the past. But he said he reached out to the athletic director at Pitt to extend the series, so they knew fully well we were trying to extend the series. He tied it to building up the playoff-friendly schedule while boosting interest simultaneously. He said, we're trying to build a schedule that sells tickets and does create interest. We're trying to build a schedule that affords our team the best opportunity to have the kind of season they need to advance in the college football playoff. And then that's when Wren Baker said, he addressed the hurdles to that. He knows about, Pitt in 26-27 might mean dropping a home game against a smaller foe, or maybe making back-to-back trips to Morgantown in a later date or after 2025, which isn't obviously balancing a schedule. That's imbalanced schedule if you do that. For 2028, West Virginia is kind of locked into a lucrative neutral site versus Tennessee. But he also said, I would do an extension into perpetuity, like we said earlier, if the Big 12 drops it back down to 8 conference games. So that would allow for 2 Power 4 non-cons like Virginia Tech or Pitt or both. So Baker has been openly talking about this, proactively reaching out well before anything that was said today. Today, on September 8th, Pat Narduzzi, I've got this labeled, the contradiction emerges, because if you listen to Pat Narduzzi, he echoed his love for the Backyard Brawl, although he just says all the time, it's just another rivalry game. It's just like another rivalry game. But back on ACC Media Days in July, he said, I would love to play him every year. We're willing to make some movements in our schedule to try to get that done. And he called it critical for regional rivalries in the ACC. In September, he on right before his press conference, he kind of flipped a script, which is today. He said, our athletic directors reached out to them and they already got it filled up, which means maybe they didn't want to play us. I don't know. They filled it up. I know if we knew that was going to happen, the Alabama cancellation, that would be our first call. So he's implying that Pitt initiated post-Alabama only for West Virginia to say, no, we've already got it filled it up, painting Wren Baker as uninterested, basically, right? That's how I'm reading it. So let's go back and look at this timeline again. Wren Baker said his outreach was in late July and early August. That's before Narduzzi's Media Days comments and the Alabama announcement as well. West Virginia filled the slots with Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss, but Baker's talks predated that, if you pay attention. So there's no evidence of Pitt reaching out first, and Baker's account is corroborated by multiple media outlets. You've got On3, SI, Dominion Post. So it seems to me like Pitt is parroting the Wren Baker enthusiasm here and trying to twist the narrative so that West Virginia doesn't want us story. Why don't you just tell us how you really feel, Narduzzi? We already know that you think that we're zoo animals. You think it's not a safe atmosphere to go to Morgantown. Don't sit there and try to lie. I just feel like there's a lie at the bottom of this, or there's some dishonesty on your part. Everything Wren Baker has said that he would do on our part, he has done. He said he would make the stadium more interesting. He did it. He said he would get us glossy helmets. He did it. He said he would change the uniforms. He did it. Like, I don't want to hear anything when it comes from Narduzzi. That's for sure. That dude has done nothing but bash us for literally years. as I have noted on this show all over and over again, and it'd take me 5 seconds. I can pull up. I've got him in a doc. I can pull up every single time he's ever slighted us publicly, whether it's good, bad, or for fun. Like, he doesn't look down. He looks at us lesser than. It's just what it is. It's why this rivalry is what it is. I don't even think he realizes that he does it. He's that dense and dumb. He really is dumb. Like, I really find him to be dumb when I hear him talk. I don't look at Pat Narduzzi and think, that's an eloquent guy. That's a smart dude. Like, that's somebody that I aspire to. I look at Wren Baker and say that. I don't look at Narduzzi and say that at all. And for him to call Wren, to insinuate that Wren Baker has, basically slighted them, or basically said we already got it filled. Well, there's probably more to the story. And I would love to hear Wren Baker's response to this, because it is so freaking annoying to me when it comes to especially Narduzzi. I just can't stand the guy. He's smug. He thinks he's tough. He's not. Like, there's just so much about him. It's like he's that guy that's got his truck jacked up. He's overcompensating for something. Like, it's just what he reminds me of, man. He's one of those guys. He's a bully, right? I mean, look at the things he said about us publicly. He said that it's not safe to go to Morgantown. He said that earlier today, he even referenced throwing batteries at the bus again. Today again, he referenced it. They get off the bus in full head, and they'll probably will again. They get off in helmets, pads, full gear. He said that, one thing about the beer policy in Morgantown is they're more than likely to drink and to throw it at you. Some of these are jokes, but it's a consistent thing that he paints us as this dangerous place to be. It's very frustrating to me to even really listen to, because it's partially a recruiting ploy as well, to have these public things out there so that certain people may read or see these things. And I don't want to parrot them either, to make it seem that I'm defending us, obviously. But I feel like this is posturing, in my opinion. This is Narduzzi maybe trying to make West Virginia the bad guy. But if you check the facts, Wren Baker's been proactive publicly here, right? So you can allude to this, however you want to, but you're parroting us, not us parroting you, which is pretty much par for the freaking course as usual. So, whatever you want to say, man, it's unresolved at the end of the day. So here's the part I worry about. Could talks become strained now that people are saying things publicly? They don't want to play us. That's not good. That means that there may not be mutual interest anymore. That's not what we want to hear here. Like, this is not good for us. So, we'll take Virginia Tech if we have to. It's just not as big of a rivalry, but it's big. It's just not as big. I'd rather play Pitt 9 times out of 9, 10 out of 10, So at the end of the day, Pat Narduzzi is a small man that I'm not surprised this is coming from him. We'll just continue to monitor it and see what happens. Hopefully something gets done. Maybe this is their way of publicly trying to get off the hook or whatever from not scheduling us. Or, if Wren Baker did, if he did say no, whatever reason, I would want to hear that explanation. But I don't think Wren Baker is going to say publicly that he said no to the brawl unless there were some unfair terms on the table for us. Like he mentioned something along the lines of like a 4-year advance notice or something. What if they're asking for 10 years advance notice? Just an example, right? It could be anything. So I got to take a breath there. I can feel my blood pressure rising because this makes me there's not too many things that make me angry. Narduzzi is one of them. It's the way he addresses us and talks about us, the people of West Virginia. So, and it's why this rivalry is what it is. Like I was saying earlier, they look down on us. They really do. They talk about it in their public places. They talk about it publicly and privately. They do as well. They do. They look down on us. They're the city folks. We're the country folks. We're the hillbillies. We burn couches, right? We've got Rich Rod. They've got Narduzzi, who is like, he reminds me of like this northerner, you know what I mean? And we've got Rich Rod, who is much more of a southern type personality. So couldn't be more polar opposite. And I'm so glad we're us and they're them. Rather be us any day of the week. I like us. Let's go to break. We'll be right back. We'll talk about what Rich Rod said today at Kegler's. There were some interesting points that he made, and he answered my question. We'll be right back. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. We're talking about Supply House on this one for multiple reasons. And when you talk about the opening whistle, it can blow on a new repair for you, right? And then you get your crew moving forward with Supply House if you want to. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow, where there's over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Not bad. Talk about a real game changer. Join the free Trade Master program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit Supply House today to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCOLLEGE5 for 5% off your first order. Do it today at supplyhouse.com, where you can find real people and real service. And our friends at Game Time say college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited because the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, they're just nothing like it, man. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel a little bit more of a battle than the game itself. You've got endless queues, hidden fees, prices jump up at checkout. That's why I chose Game Time, man, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. And it's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at best prices with no surprise fees at checkout, of course. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time and just a couple of little taparoos. I saw amazing deals. And I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25, like the West Virginia Mountaineers. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. And remember that the terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today. And don't forget, swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. That's swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today and find out the question of all questions. What time is it? It's game time. All right, guys, we are back here in Locked On West Virginia. It's segment 2. Let's crack open a do, y'all. Except I'm drinking our Barty Armor on this one. No do for me late at night anymore. At least not until game day. Then maybe we will. Why you guys are singing Sweet Carolina in the chat? Okay, I can dig it. Rich Rod comments. Some interesting things he had to say today. Obviously he does the radio show Rick Kegler's, and they got into the press conference talking about the Backyard Brawl versus Pitt. They got into it talking about the Ohio game. And I'm just going to read a couple of things that he talked about. He was talking about the emotional toll of the loss and bouncing back. Both things, both huge for this week. The emotional, you've got the emotional toll of the loss, and then you've got bouncing back. He said, quote, "It's like it takes away part of your soul." And if you looked at him after the game, he was dejected. Totally dejected. He described the pain of losing, where he said, he was drawing from his decades in coaching. He kind of switched But then he shifted kind of swiftly to optimism. Shifted swiftly is not easy to say back to back, by the way. We're swiftly shifted. He said, we're going to be all right, quote, but it ain't going to be easy. And he emphasized moving forward, especially with Pitt on the horizon. We know we got Pitt next. And he said, if we're going to come back, why not come back in this game this week? I love that. I love that. Why not us? Why not this week? Everybody else is giving up. All my comments listen to me. All the comments, all of them almost, 9 out of 10 have given totally up on this team. Truthfully, 9 out of 10 have given totally up on this team. It's just what it is. I haven't given up. Not yet. I mean, do I think we're going to win the Big 12? No, we don't have that kind of team this year. That's obvious. I still think there's a path to 6 wins. We just got to find it. That way we can have some momentum going into next year, and he can build off of this. But, like he said, it ain't going to be easy. And why not this week with this team, though? And he said he's not giving up on anything right now. And he also reiterated he's disappointed but not discouraged. Said we had a pretty good week of practice, and we weren't clowning around or anything. He said defensively they played pretty well for the most part, but overall we didn't play well enough to beat a solid team. He also noted that Ohio had 24 first downs, which kept the ball away for way too long, and West Virginia kind of lacked a bunch of big plays. He said it looked like a catch to me on the Cam Vaughn play. And he also talked about the opportunities outside of that, because some people were kind of saying, well, what if you get the Cam Vaughn catch? What happens then? But, he said there's more to it. He said, I wasn't pleased with the tempo Saturday, and it was silly stuff that cost us from getting first downs. In order to win this week, they have to control the tempo. And he wasn't worried about fatigue, he said, in the game when it came to that. He said, I felt my guys were tired, but they didn't put any extended drives together. So there was no way to make them tired, which is kind of what this offense is supposed to do. He gave the Tough Guys of the Week award or whatever it is to Jaheim White and Jade Bray, which was a pretty kind of a little touching moment there during the show. He said it's very sad. He's having surgery in the next couple of days, and he'll be out for the season. He'll come back better and stronger next year. And he added that Jaheim White he added that Jaden Bray is recovering from that same foot issue as a year ago. He needs surgery on it, and he'll be out for the year. So that's 2 guys that were starting for us. And he said Bray was playing well too. And it's really unfortunate that he's having the same foot injury again, man. I mean, it just sucks, guys. He said he was probably at 7 miles a day running. I mean, just craziness. So he said they were 2 of his hardest workers. He said they'll bounce back and be better than ever. And he said they'll still be supporting the team. He said Chase Wilson was playing pretty well, got banged up. Said he'll be limited this week, and they're hoping he can go Saturday. He said Jeff Weimer will be stepping up for reps at receiver. Justin Smith-Brown's got a great opportunity, and you'll see a bunch of more Preston Fox, who's been really good on special teams. And he also told me Logan Ramper is getting better every day. He told me that whenever he answered my text. He also said Dior Hubbard's going to get some touches this week, but he said we need to play more of our slots too, because, obviously that's going to be a big deal, getting more slots in the game like Gerard Bowie. Now, he said Dior will get a chance to get some reps with this week with Jaheim White injury, so I'm anxious to see what he does with it. He said Tyshawn Deuce is probably going to be redshirted, but he's got some talent. He said Noah Braham and Robbie Martin. He said Noah has been playing on special teams. Robbie Martin is going to have a good future here. He's coming along. He's got a long way to go, but he's an athletic guy with a great personality. So doesn't sound like Robbie Martin's going to be sliding in anytime soon, y'all. As far as Nico Marchiol remains a starter, but Rodriguez stressed the ongoing competition. Each is different, noting Marchiol, Henderson, Fox have unique strengths to match the situations. The competition will be going on all year long. And he said the hardest thing to manage, obviously, is you can only play one at a time. They all do different things well, but we almost put a third quarterback in against Ohio. He said if we're rolling and scoring touchdowns, we'll just go with what we've got. If we're not, we need to make a change. It's pretty simple, right? So he said it's a good group of guys. That competition will go on for a long time. And he said specifically in true freshman Scotty Fox, he's physical, knows how to run, but he's also got one of the quickest releases of any quarterback I think I've ever had, which is a really neat thing. He's still young, still learning. He said he's not shy about playing freshmen. But when we get into it, that'd be part of your mindset of who we are if we're going to redshirt, right? So you got to be mindful of how many games they're playing, the snaps, and all that if you're going to do that. He said Parker Navarro was able to cut it upside with his athleticism and made some jump passes. He admitted the quarterback play was off from West Virginia's side. And under further review, he said, but, they're probably going to play a bunch of guys this week, right? So just be ready for that. Nico's probably going to come out as a starter, y'all, but that don't mean anything more than likely. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that obviously you want Pitt to prepare for Nico as a starter so that you can roll whoever else out there. And this is my opinion. You want Pitt to have to prepare for all three guys if you can, or four, or whatever. So he said the O-line showed effort but needs work. This is the part that's the most disheartening for me, guys. He said from an assignment standpoint, they played pretty well. He said we didn't get enough push as we needed to. It's a solid group that has very little experience. He said they'll get better with experience, but he elaborated. We have a couple of guys that we're trying to roll in there from an offensive assignment standpoint. We played well. We just weren't getting enough push. And then it was kind of self-reflecting. He said it's not catastrophically bad, but there are things of like, well, I don't think we can do that. And if there's stuff we can't do, then that's on us as coaches. We got to figure out how to do something else. He also took the blame for how offensively poor they played. So Richard did, which he always does. He said we couldn't play with any rhythm at all. So, he said, we know what we got to do. He said the hard part is we haven't done it together. And he said we've got to find out sooner than later what our guys can and can't do. And we've got to get guys more opportunities when he was asked to kind of describe what that looks like. So there's a lot to digest here, a lot. The part that sucks the worst is they didn't miss many assignments, only a few. And you were still able to get no push. You would 10 times out of 10, you would rather be missed assignments than something physical. If you're physically not able to move per people, that's bad. That means that you have misevaluated your offensive line. Now, I said last week, they've got guys behind them that are bigger. I don't know if that means they're stronger or if they play with better leverage or whatever, but there's got to be. And here's the other thing. They played well in pass protection. So for me, guys, I think it's one of those things where you look at it and you say, you know what, man, at the end of the day, we've got to figure this thing out, right? Somehow, some way. I think you just have to figure it out one way or the other. Like, I mean, let's go to Google really quick. All right. So if you go over here to Google and type in West Virginia football roster, there's a bunch of different ways that you can try to go. I mean, yeah, it's just so frustrating to have to think about all this, really, because I was just hoping that the offensive line was going to be better than it is, and it's not. Like Carson Lee's a guy I look at right away and think, what the hell did I do there? He's a guy I look at and think, man, I wonder why he's not playing a little more. But, I mean, I get it. They know more than I know at the end of the day. They do, but there are a bunch of guys here, right? I think Chemo and Walter have been really big disappointments so far, and I would love to see them get better. I mean, Kimo Makaniole was moved to defensive line at LSU, I feel like for a reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. But I mean, if you look from a size standpoint, Chemo is 6'4", 300 pounds. He's a big dude, right? Donovan Haslam is 6'3", 346. He's a really big dude. Um, Young Bear is 6'3", 312. You know, I don't know, y'all. I don't know if size matters that much or not, to be honest. I mean, I know it does to a certain extent, but it's not the be all end all. Let's just hope they can. Maybe maybe it's just one or two guys they can just figure out a combination, right? Because our tackles play pretty well. Our tackles they play average ball, but like centers and guards have been shaky inside. So I would imagine more perimeter runs are coming. We'll see more end arounds, that kind of stuff. I mean, we've seen them do it before. We'll just have to see what they pull out, what they whip out, because it's going to be, it's going to have to be something. All right, let's go to break here. We'll come back here in a second. I'll give you guys my final thought. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by the Game Cap. And look, quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would probably be, I've said multiple on here. I would probably still pick, goodness gracious, man. There's a couple ones that I would like to see. Like, there's a couple of the Marshall games I would like to see. I think the Marshall, the 98 game or 99 game, whichever one that was, I would like to see that. Because these aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They're still going for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, you can get your vintage hat for $16.99. So head to gamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com, where you can grab your classic bar or retro style design and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because when you're legend, you wear the game. All right, we are back here in Locked On West Virginia in segment 3, guys. Thanks for being here. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening around the program right now, for sure. I'm not too happy about the offensive line, obviously. But, I mean, I feel like our defense isn't getting enough love because of the loss. They did so much right. I mean, you look at what they've done in the first 2 games. Really good. Somehow we fumbled the ball 5 times in the game, and we're plus on turnovers for the year, or even one of the two. Like most teams would be like plus 3 or whatever it is right now, right? Or whatever, minus or plus. I don't know which one. I can't remember which one's good and which one's bad, but turnover margins, how they determine if teams are good or not in a lot of cases. Our team's turnover margin could be good by the end of the year. But, I think, maybe they start Nico and maybe they've got a plan in the passing attack. Maybe they don't. But I would love, maybe they're going to rotate like he says. It's going to be really interesting to see this week. I just hope somebody comes in and gets hot. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Nico. I don't care if it's Jalen. I don't care if it's Max Anderson. I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's Max Anderson, the freshman. I don't care if it's Max Brown, the transfer. I just want to see somebody come in and be able to throw it a little bit, because their offensive line, here's the other thing I was going to tell y'all earlier. Our offensive line is actually protected. The only sacks we've given up is when Nico has taken it down to run and got caught from behind. Like, there was enough time to throw it. He just didn't do it. They didn't. A couple of times they didn't run the right route. A couple of times he went one read and go. So, I mean, if we can just find somebody, because I think we can pass it around if we can figure that part of it out. We may not be as good of a running team as Rich Rob wants to be, but I do think as a passing team, we've got a chance. So, I don't know. We'll have to keep continuing to monitor it, as I say. Thanks for joining in, y'all. Narduzzi, man, what a What a piece of garbage, man. Just every time he opens his mouth, I'd love to just roundhouse kick him right in the jaw. But I can't. I couldn't get my leg up that high anymore, anyways. I used to be able to dunk a golf ball, so what? Oh gosh. All right, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk more about it. We gotta have let me know who you want to see on the show if anybody got a few guests lined up for Pitt week. I appreciate all the support, guys. You guys continue to do a great job supporting the team, and I can't thank you enough for that. Continue to come here for all your coverage. And lastly, I do have a quick question for you. You know, I don't know if you know this, but it's another big moment for Locked On and for college football fans because Locked On and Fire TV are going to present to you college football's kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview with Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leading the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, from your former TCU coach, and college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview show only Locked On can do. Do us a favor and catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, and you can get it only on Fire TV. Good night, guys.